recorded by a band from Muscle Shoals. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ronnie Knight, and I used to build guitars in the area, and at one time, back when this album, Yellowhammer, was when the Fiddleworms had first formed and they were recording this album, all of them were playing a guitar that I built. Matter of fact, Matt Ross, who's playing bass tonight and is the original bassist with the Fiddleworms, actually came and helped me a lot at my shop when I was building guitars, and he built, I think, 2 basses out there. Anyhow, I've got a bit of a history with this band, especially with respect to this first album. You know, we've always made our own music here in Muscle Shoals. For a time, I made some of our guitars, and we've always done it our own way, and it's a bit of a community thing. Matter of fact, community is almost everything with it, and you're going to see that tonight because the first half of the show, the band will be playing their first album, Yellowhammer, in its entirety. During the second half of the show, they're going to be bringing various people up who have basically supported the Fiddleworms project through the years, and so you're going to get to see an awful lot of talent during the night tonight, and I think by the time it's over, you're going to thank yourself for being here. Matter of fact, I remember we did a Nashville show one time that was a generation show where the Fiddleworms played and then they were Donnie Fritz's backing band. And I actually wound up playing some slide on that on the song Better Him Than Me. And so this is a tradition that's gone on for a long time. For those of you who are not familiar with the Worms, just give you a real brief synopsis of their history. Russell Mefford had been on a sojourn in Florida and had returned with a number of songs in hand. And he shared with me recently that it was his intent to get some studio musicians and go to fame and record an album's worth of his songs. Well, he met a young man named Chris Quillen, and Chris really liked Russell's songs. And when Russell told him what his plans were, Chris said, "Let me put a band together for you." And yeah. And you know, Russell and I agreed that Chris was a big part of the musical soul of this first album. I mean, all these guys played their hearts out, to this day. And they brought a lot, everyone brought a lot and unique qualities to the table. But Chris it was a little different. He had a gift, but he also had a great music teacher. His dad, Carol Quillen, had been involved with the music business both here and in Nashville for a number of years. And where Chris had the gift, he also had a father who could teach him how to sing vocal harmonies and who could teach him how to be melodic. Matter of fact, I had the privilege during the last couple of years of playing a few shows with Carol, and he actually got me, an old blues guy, singing some harmonies with him. And I was really exhilarated by that because I had not ever done it before. So Chris had kind of a gift, and he went ahead and assembled the original band for Yellowhammer, which included Scott Kennedy on drums, Matt Ross on bass, Chalmers Davis was on the keys, Russell Mefford on guitar and vocals, and of course Chris was on guitar and backing vocals. And this was the beginning of one of the greatest bands in the South, and certainly the beginning of a huge and great tradition of rock music here in the Shoals. They started gigging and drawing crowds. They really had a scene that was beginning to build around them. And they started recording an album. The album that you're about to hear in its entirety, Yellowhammer. The album almost might not have happened if it hadn't been for Scott. Russell shared a story with me recently. They were playing in Birmingham, and they had been booking studio time in Nashville because they could get it inexpensively on certain days. Well, a snowstorm had hit the night after they played in Birmingham, and when they got to 157 exit, the interstate was shut down. Well, Scott got out and he said, "We're going to Nashville." And he moved the barriers, and they drove several hours to get to. Yeah, Scott! They drove several hours to get to Nashville. And just to give you a little idea of how Chris was in terms of just how he inspired and motivated people, when they got there, they got on the phone with Chalmers because Chalmers had not been with them in Birmingham. Well, being the reasonable individual that Chalmers was, he was a bit reluctant to make that drive in that kind of snow. And Russell said he was talking on the phone with him, and Chandler's was like, no, I just don't think I'm going to try that, you know, I'm not sure it'd be safe and all. Well, sensing Russell's frustration, Chris reached for the phone, Chris Quillen. And Russell said that Chris's end of the conversation was something like this. Yeah, okay. And so after a minute or two, Russell just finally asked him, well, what did Chalmers say? And Chris just looked at him and said, he's coming. That's all Chris had to do was just get on the phone and say yeah a few times, and Chalmers came on. The album you're about to hear in its entirety was in the can by the early part of '96, and things were looking promising. But as a number of you in the audience tonight know, Chris Quillen left us in an auto accident in May of 1996. And we want especially to remember him this evening. I was in an interview recently where some people who were doing another documentary on the Shoals from a slightly different angle from the first one, they said to me at one point, I mentioned Chris several times, they said, his name just keeps coming up. And they wanted to know more about him. I sent him an article I had written a while back, and they asked me to record for them on film what I had said about Chris in this article. I made the statement in the article that if Duane Allman was the first true free spirit to come to the Shoals area and play music, Chris Quillen was the second coming of that same spirit. And they really loved that. And tonight, just to keep Chris on our hearts and minds, and he's always in our hearts and minds, but we have his amplifier here with us tonight. And this instrument over here is the instrument that I built him 21 years ago. We have it here tonight. You're about to hear the album in its entirety, but we felt like it would only be fitting and proper for you guys to get to hear just a little bit of Chris's playing, because you just need to hear a little bit of what he was able to do with the guitar. Joey Flippin, who owned Pegasus Records and Tapes for a number of years, once remarked to me that Chris made it look so easy that he said it ought to be a crime. And of course, Joey was as admiring of Chris as all the rest of us were. But we're going to play just a couple of things. The first thing we're going to play just a brief snippet of is a full-bore rock solo that Chris's father, Kara, really loves. It's from the Yellowhammer album, from the song called Tension. That we want to play for you. And I'm going to throw this suggestion out there. Some of us need to get a listening party together at some point. We need to establish a tradition of listening parties to sit and listen to some of these great albums that have come out of Muscle Shoals. So some of you take that idea and run with it. The second selection we've got is one of my favorite solos by him off the album Yellowhammer. It's a song called "Breathe for Me," and you can hear him just work from almost a Byrds type jangle in this solo into almost a Duane Allman in Muscle Shoals. It's like he's channeling that with the tone in the latter half of the solo. And I'll go ahead and give you permission now to applaud once this is over as well. Go ahead, Russ. Thanks. their album Yellowhammer. As a matter of fact, they released it 20 years ago tonight. We are celebrating that exact 20th anniversary. And the man who stepped in and into Chris's guitar spot for that night is Rob Malone. And I'll tell you, Rob, that night, it just kills me there's no tape of that night, because Rob ripped a Blue South guitar apart that night, and I loved it. Anyhow, tonight, along with Rob, Mitch Mann will be covering some of the guitar parts, and so we want you guys, you ready to dig the worms now? Now give it up, give it big. Show them very welcome for Rob, for Russell, for Mitch, for Wayne Chaney, and for Matt Ross and Scott Kennedy. Give it up for the Fiddleworms!